You ever wonder how the pros get that massive, spacious sound, but it never, ever turns into a muddy mess? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. The secrets to getting that professional, super clear reverb in your own music.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You dial in this gorgeous reverb on a vocal, or maybe a snare drum, and all of a sudden what was supposed to be crisp and upfront just sounds kind of blurry, washed out, and totally lost in the mix.
It's honestly one of the fastest ways to make a mix sound, a little amateur. But the great news is there are a couple of legendary, totally proven techniques to get all that depth and space you're dreaming of without any of the mud.
Okay, but before we jump into the fixes, we got to get on the same page about what's actually going wrong here. We need to nail down the problem. So, here's the irony. The very thing that makes reverb so awesome, its power to spread sound out and create a vibe, a real sense of space, that's also its biggest weakness. Those beautiful long reverb tails can easily just spill all over the place and totally clash with the clean, punchy sounds you want right up front.
And to really get control over it, we need to take a quick peek under the hood at how our brain actually hears sound in a room. It's a little bit of science, but it's super cool, I promise.
What's so cool about this is how simple it is when you break it down. You hear the sound straight from the source, right? And then just milliseconds later, you start hearing all these little copies of that sound as they bounce off the walls, the floor, the ceiling, everything.
And this is just a wild psychoacoustic trick your brain does. Psychoacoustics, by the way, is just the study of how we perceive sound. Your brain is so smart that it knows you're in a room, so instead of hearing 1,000 messy echoes, it just fuses those super early reflections with the direct sound to give you one clear sense of space.
And boom, right here. This is where the problem starts. See those early reflections in green? Those are great. They tell our brain how big the room is. But it's that dense cloud of late reflections in blue, that's the reverb tail, that builds up and creates this sonic fog that just clouds up our entire mix.
So, how do we fight the fog? Let's start with solution number 1, a legendary technique for shaping the tone of your reverb straight from the engineers who worked with, the Beatles.
Now this is absolutely crucial. We're not trying to fix a muddy reverb after it's already a problem. The whole idea here is to prevent the mud from ever being created in the first place by sculpting the sound before it even hits the reverb plugin. This right here is the secret sauce. So many people, and I mean most people, instinctively put an EQ after the reverb to try and clean it up. But the classic Abbey Road move, the real trick, is putting it before. Trust me, this is a total game changer.
And here are the magic numbers. That high-pass filter, cutting everything below 600 Hz, that is non-negotiable. That's what stops all that low-end rumble from turning into a swamp in your reverb. Then, the low-pass just tames any harsh, fizzy stuff up top. And that little notch for vocals, perfect. It just carves out a little pocket for the main vocal to sit right in front of its own reverb.
Okay, so that's the classic way. Now let's jump into a more modern, more dynamic approach that you hear literally all over today's pop, hip-hop, and electronic music. This is just brilliant. Instead of permanently carving out frequencies, this technique gets the reverb to dynamically move out of the way. So when the vocal is singing, the reverb automatically turns itself down. The second the singer takes a breath, whoosh, the reverb swells right back up to fill the space. So cool.
See the critical difference here? With this trick, the compressor goes after the reverb. The dry vocal signal acts like a remote control, telling the compressor on the reverb track exactly when to duck down and when to pop back up.
And hey, you want to make that reverb swell and breathe perfectly in time with your track? Here's a super handy little formula for you. Just take 60,000 and divide it by your song's BPM. That gives you the release time in milliseconds for a perfect quarter note. It is an amazing starting point for dialing in that rhythmic pump.
So, we've got two incredible techniques. Which one should you use? Well, the key here is to realize they do two totally different jobs. And spoiler, you can, and probably should, use them together. This slide is the perfect cheat sheet. The Abbey Road Trick is all about tone, getting rid of mud before it even starts. The ducking trick is all about volume, creating space for the lead in real time. Think of it like a 1-2 punch. You use the EQ to get the reverb's tone just right, and then you use the compressor to make it dance and move dynamically with the mix.
So if there's one thing you walk away with today, it's this. Stop thinking of reverb as just some effect you slap on at the end. Start treating it like its own instrument. When you intentionally shape its tone with EQ before it's even created, and you control its movement with compression after, you're not just adding space, you're designing it. And that, right there, is how you get that professional, spacious, and crystal clear mix you've been chasing. Mastering these techniques will absolutely transform your mixes. I guarantee it. You'll be adding all this incredible depth without ever sacrificing clarity. And it really makes you wonder, right? If shaping reverb is this powerful, what other mixing rules are you ready to go break?